Pretty emotional one with the mayor of Trent Hills, Hector MacMillan. He is making all kinds of news in the last 24 hours, blasting the Ontario government, saying that he has been essentially sentenced to die because they will not cover a procedure for pancreatic cancer. We just want to take a few moments and kind of unpack this maybe a little more. I mean, this is a very tough, very emotional story. And here's a guy who feels like he has been let down by our healthcare system.
And he was just saying that he's considered stage 4 pancreatic cancer here in Canada. In the States, he's considered stage 3. He's saying Ontario won't downgrade his stages to 3 because if he were stage 3 here, he would get treatment. They would treat him.
Right.
But
well,
at stage 4, he's being
what they consider
off.
to be an experimental surgery here in this country, although
experimental because we don't
do it, but there's 50 centers in the States that do this nano knife surgery, it is, which essentially is electrical impulses that go in and get rid of the cancerous cells in the pancreas. And it's used all over the world, but the cost is exorbitant. It's $350,000 for the surgery and the aftercare. And this is where it gets so tough because who wants to put a price on a life, right?
Right, and I think at the end of the day, we always talk about Canada's healthcare system being top-notch when compared to other countries around the world, but in a situation like this, it definitely does sort of show that, if you have money, then you are able to get that treatment, whereas if you don't, then you're in a situation when you're just sitting there feeling like the clock is ticking.
Well, we always put ourselves above the U.S., right? But to your point, Liam, this is a case where our universal healthcare system is not covering somebody for something, and they are faced with the situation that so many folks are in the U.S. Do I have enough money to have the surgery to save my life? And, I think Canadians, we pride ourselves in saying that nobody has to make that decision in this country. Nobody should be faced with that decision.
It is so tough because Hector was even saying if he had this procedure done in the States, he could potentially be cancer-free. And the doctor down there, you can't promise, you can't give anyone a guarantee that you're going to be cancer-free forevermore. But based on the operations and the surgeries and the treatment he's done in the past on 250 some odd patients, huge extension of life, 8 to 10 years.
Right.
Even if you have one extra day with your family, you talk to a terminally ill patient. I interviewed a patient who had esophageal cancer, and it was such a rare cancer, he didn't get treatment. So that's another thing. You don't want to, if you get cancer, you don't want a rare cancer because we don't have treatment for that either. Listen,
if I could personalize this on 2 fronts. First, I have a very close friend who is going through this exact same thing, stage 4 pancreatic cancer, and it upsets me even just to talk about it. But, there's enough that goes on just facing that diagnosis and trying to battle that, never mind battling the government. And when you've got something that looks like hope or light at the end of a tunnel and you're trying to go through a bunch of bureaucratic red tape or trying to get some sort of coverage from our universal healthcare system, it's just an added frustration that these people do not need.
When the clock is ticking.
Exactly. And I also, I've mentioned this before, my father had transplant surgery, now 14, 15 years ago. And I remember my mom at one time asking the doctor, if we had to pay, how much would this have cost? And ironically enough, it was about $300,000. And obviously, that would have bankrupted our family if we would have had to pay for that. We would have found a way to do it. But, it's so tough when you're essentially deciding who lives, who dies. You're picking winners and losers, right? And, if we've got money for something like organ donation, which I wholeheartedly endorse and believe in, can't we find, if we're going to hold up our healthcare system as something that's the envy of the world, can we find money to help these patients and be a leader, even if we believe this is experimental, can we find the resources to further this research and this surgery?
Because time is invaluable and it's priceless. All right, we're going to take a short break. We are first going to check on traffic with Kim.